Works now. I'm joined right now by tonight's special Hardball Congressional Roundtable. Congressman-elect Joe Neguse, Congressman Tom Reed, and former Congresswoman Donna Edwards. All three of you know what it's like to be in the House. At least you're learning, sir. Let me go to Congresswoman Edwards. How does Nancy Pelosi decide? Does she lean in and get some support from these new members, some of them who are moderates? They get elected in sort of Republican, purple districts, maybe red districts. They said they weren't going to vote for her. Out of that promise. Let's just start with that one.
Well, I mean, I think that she can. I mean, obviously she can afford to lose some of them, and so that's okay. And I think Nancy Pelosi is actually masterful at making sure that she manages the entire caucus, and I think that's what people are going to see in her leadership. And I think that they will be able to vote against her in the caucus to get her nomination to the floor, and they'll be able to either vote present or vote for her on the floor.
Is there enough, enough strays out there that she can let go and still get the majority?
Well, remember, she got those strays and some of them the last time that she ran. It's not that she hasn't ever faced opposition, but here's the thing. For Democrats, it makes no sense to be having this fight right now. You have the leader who brought you to the dance, who got you your seat, and now you're going to throw her out when she's brought in more women than have ever been in Congress before. It makes no sense whatsoever, and this is not the last vote that these young Democrats are going to have to cast, and so I suggest that they really think about that.
Congressman-elect Neguse, I have to tell you, I've been watching this thing for 60 years, and every time the Republicans want to knock off a Democrat in the middle part of the country, they take some ethnic person, black, Italian, Jewish, whatever, somebody that's a little different than the people in their district, and they make them the face of their opponent. So they say, I'm running against Pelosi, I'm running against Tip O'Neill, I'm running against Vito Marcantoni, I'm running against Bella Abzug, I'm running against somebody, Teddy Kennedy, somebody that they don't like. How was it in your race? Did you have to defend Pelosi?
Look, I don't think that tactic necessarily worked this time around. I represent a district that's 90% white, so you know, being a person of color, again, I'm just not so sure that argument makes sense.
So they went directly against you.
Yeah, that's right. But they didn't pull it off. So, and you know, I tend to agree with Congresswoman Edwards. I don't know that this is necessarily the battle that we should be focused on right now.
Well, you have the battle. What if you don't focus on it? You're going to vote a week after Thanksgiving.
I think the freshman
class... Aren't you going to vote?
I'm going to vote, but I think the freshman class wants to get to work and wants to move on to the big, important policy.
Meanwhile, on the Republican side, Kevin McCarthy will become the House Minority Leader, easily beating Congressman Jim Jordan today, a Trump ally and member of the Freedom Caucus. Well, according to Politico, President Trump has privately urged the House Majority Leader, that would be McCarthy, to strike a deal with the Conservative Freedom Caucus founder. Anyway, a deal could include an appointment as the ranking House member on the House Judiciary Committee, a key post that will be involved in many of the Democratic investigations against the president. Anyway, let me go to Congressman Reed. Congratulations on your victory.
Great to be with you, Chris.
Is there a chance that you might vote for Pelosi?
Well, that's what I've offered, because we're part of the group that's trying to reform the rules of the House to get the House working for the American people. And any candidate, Democrat or Republican, I've been open to supporting, so long as we reform the rules of the House to make it not this top-down, speaker-driven, controlled organization that it's become. It's got to be responsive to the American people, and that's what our Break the Gridlock rule reform and the Problem Solvers Caucus and the No Label organization has stood for, and I think we can get there.
Why don't you pass a rule that says you have to bring up for a vote anything that will pass? Because I saw this with the immigration bill a few years ago. It was going to pass overwhelmingly, and they wouldn't even bring up the damn thing.
And that's the cornerstone of one of our reforms, is if you get to certain levels of bipartisan support, we're guaranteed an opportunity to vote for it on the floor of the House. You're absolutely right, Chris. I agree with you on this. The House needs to reflect the will of the people that have been elected as members of Congress to represent their districts. And having that block of a top-down, speaker-driven, controlled organization has to come to an end. That's why I'm glad to be part of this.
Do you like the idea of having a Freedom Caucus, Tea Party type on the Judiciary Committee?
Well, you know, I'll leave it up to you know, we'll leave it up to their role in the Congress. There's a role for them in our caucus and our conference, and they're going to relish that role, and they're going to stand firm for whatever they believe in. But at the end of the day, I'm here to legislate for the people back home, and that's why I'm glad to be up here with a new member coming in from Colorado, who I think we can develop a friendship and relationship with to govern.
Are you in the Progressive Caucus, sir?
I am, although I'll say I agree with Representative Reed regarding the Problem Solvers Caucus. I think the reforms are really a good thing, and Pelosi, I think, issued a statement today that was largely supportive of him. So hopefully there'll be some changes in that regard.
Well, here's some good news. Florida's Republican Senate hopeful Rick Scott has assumed he's won. He's attending the orientation. There he is for freshman senators on Capitol Hill. There he is. He won. The problem is the recount in that Florida Senate race isn't over. It's still underway, and they're waiting to hear from the military votes coming in later this week. And today, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said if all 8 million votes can't be processed by tomorrow's deadline, that deadline should be extended.
Feel as if those deadlines should be moved out?
Absolutely. Every vote should be counted. It is unconstitutional to say every vote should count in rural counties because they can count quickly, but every vote shouldn't count in the more urban and populated counties because it takes them longer to count the vote.
Well, not surprising, Rick Scott's campaign sees it differently.
If the ballots are not counted by then we know that Florida law has a fallback, and that fallback would allow for the tally that stood before the recount started to be the actual tally.
If the tally went back to Tuesday night's number, that would be election night. It would also mean those voters who submitted absentee ballots, provisional ballots, military ballots would be totally ignored. Donna, how do we explain? How do you tell people who bothered to vote by absentee, we're not going to count your ballots?
You don't. It's a really simple principle here, and Republicans should get this. Count every vote that's been cast. I feel like we're doing a replay of the 2000 election. That is not where we want to be in 2018. Count every vote.
Why does a state have, well, either any of you can have, Congressman Reed, you can answer this. Why does the state set deadlines like Thursday this, Friday that, when they know they can't count that fast?
Well, I think, you know, obviously every vote should count, but you do need to make sure that you don't change the rules in the middle of a recount. And whatever the rules are, I think we should adhere to them as we go forward.
In other words, go back to what happened so whatever was being reported on television election night.
No.
That should be, that's what the rule says.
Well, no, I think every to be counted, but at some point in time, you got to recognize you need to bring finality to these elections and move forward to the next cycle.
But one of the challenges here is that there was an overwhelming voter turnout, a lot of absentee ballots, provisional ballots, overseas ballots, and so for an election that was not predictable. And so what's wrong with the principle of counting every vote? I mean, when I show up to vote, I don't think, well, they're not going to take this one because I did it by absentee. I mean, it makes no sense at all. I don't even think you can explain that to the American people, that you cast a vote, but you're not going to count it because you ran out of time.
I would like one. I know it's up to states, but I love the states to all agree on one form of machinery, one paper ballot. Everybody gets as a backup, and the same rules for every state. And if it's an ID, it's an ID. Whatever the D is, same for everybody, so it can't be played like gerrymandering as a local gimmick.
Sounds like a bill Representative Reed and I can work on together.
Well, it'd be great.
I look forward to that.
The roundtable staying with us, and up next, the difference between the diversity and the newly elected